Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Domination, where today I'd like to talk about the problem we have with Gabriel Jesus and the impact he's having on not just himself and his form, but on the entire side. I spoke yesterday after the Fulham defeat about how I felt the issue really was the attack rather than the defence, despite the problems we had in defence yesterday with the changes that were made largely due to injury. And I spoke in that game about how I didn't really think it made much difference who played at fullback in the outcome of the game. And I still stand very much by that. But that got me thinking about the attack. Now, in the game, I thought Kai Havertz looked very, very tired and lethargic. And I think it resulted in him not having his best game. And I was thinking about the reason behind that. And if I'm Mikel Arteta right now, do I really trust my options to replace him? Trossard is one, but I don't really like him in the nine. I prefer him on the left. And the other is Gabriel Jesus. And Jesus, of course, is the man that should be the natural backup. And it's just not happening for him, is it? I mean, I'm just looking at his stats here. You know, he got 4 goals, 5 assists last year in 27 games. This year it's 1 goal, 1 assist in 18 games in all competitions. No goals in the league, 6 shots in 12 games. It's nowhere near acceptable for a striker at any club in the Premier League, let alone one that's supposed to be title challengers. And he's just not looked the same since the knee injury. Now, I spoke earlier in the season about Gabriel Martinelli, and I lumped in Gabriel Jesus with him and saying that both looked short of confidence. And we've definitely seen an improvement in Martinelli since he found a goal. But not so in Jesus. I know the goal came in the League Cup. I think it was a League Cup. But he's not really kicked on. And the game against Fulham, he was awful, absolutely awful. And it was characterised by that through ball. I think it was Declan Rice through ball. He doesn't even swing to try and shoot. He just lets the ball run through to Bert Leno. And, I think it's gone beyond a lack of confidence. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, his passing was poor. His movement was poor. Well, I can't comment on his finishing because he didn't even try on a shot. He's just offered Arsenal almost nothing all season. And I think it affects, as I say, Kai Havertz. Do I think he's a mistake signing overall? No. I think when we signed him, I think he was a good player. You saw how good he was, but he's just not been the same since that knee injury. And I think Arsenal undoubtedly will need to move on from him if they can. And I think probably it's going to be a low value bid from Brazil that will, or maybe Saudi or something like that. I don't see him going to a top side, and I don't see Arsenal getting their money back for Jesus. And don't get me wrong, I don't think this was a signing where we bought him to get our money back. I think this was very much a signing that we made to improve the side, and it was all about what he could do then. But it just, as I say, hasn't worked. So how do Arsenal look to replace him, and when? I think the long-term answer, and Arsenal's main focus, is going to be players like Sesko, Isak, or Gyökeres. I think they're probably, in all likelihood, summer signings rather than January signings. Gyökeres arguably the easiest to get, given he has a release clause. But we don't know what Arsenal's finances are going to be in terms of PSR. Maybe we can afford him after that late flurry of sales on deadline day when Nketiah and Emil Smith-Rowe transferred went through, and of course Aaron Ramsdale as well. Smith-Rowe might have been earlier actually, but anyway, there was a late flurry of transfers went through. Maybe that's improved the situation and allows us to go out and get those players. But if he indicates he doesn't want to move to a summer, or Arsenal don't have that money, because of course if they do the release clause, it's one hit on the PSR front. You can't spread that out in the same way. What do Arsenal do? Because it's clear they need to bring in an extra forward. I said in the summer they were one light. I understood why they didn't get a striker in, but I always felt they were one light once they let Nelson, Nketiah, Vieira, Smith-Rowe all depart. And I think the answer might be a 24-year-old Canadian who plays in the French league, goes by the name of Jonathan David. Now, his contract expires this summer, so you might well be able to put a good bid into Lille and get him for really good value and an affordable rate. I think he's valued at something like 45 million euros by Transfermarkt. I think that's probably over-egging what he's worth, given his contract situation. He's no indication of signing a new one. And maybe a £25 million bid does the trick in January. Now, David is a really versatile player. He's capable of playing wide left, behind the striker, but has mainly, in the last season or two, played as a number 9 for Lille. And that's where his experience really is leading the line. And his goal output has sort of improved steadily, with the slight exception of last season where it took a slight fall back from, I think it was 24 goals to 19 goals, but still a decent return. And this year he's got 17 goals and 3 assists in all competitions this season. And that includes, I think it's 4 in 5 in the Champions League plus 2 in the qualifiers. So good, really, goal scoring record. As I say, he's versatile. He anticipates play really well, and he's good at finding and creating space with his off-the-ball movement. And intelligent players like that are ones that Mikel Arteta really, really likes. It in some ways reminds me a little bit of Trossard with his movement from the bits I've seen of him play. And I think this movement, coupled with his good finishing ability, could be really helpful for us, particularly against the low blocks, which again we struggled with against Fulham at the weekend. I think the other thing to like about him, he's a really good presser. He often leads the press. He leads it intelligently and with real energy. And again, Arsenal like those sort of players. You look at Kai Havertz, you look at Martin Odegaard, you look at Gabriel Martinelli, you look at Bukayo Saka. That's the front four. All of them are real press heavy guys. They really go hard at the opposition and force them, either into mistakes or to go long. And that's really, really important in the Arsenal system. So I think you can already start to see a picture here of where Jonathan David fits in. But also crucially, and I say, you've got an intelligent player, you've got good movement, you've got able to finish it, you've got good pressing, but you've also got the fact he can link up play really well. And again, his ability to either go in behind or come short is really, really useful for Arsenal in the way they play. I think that's what makes him really quite exciting for me and gettable in January, then could really just help put the pressure on Martinelli or give Havertz a rest, or even replace Odegaard if he were to need a rest, although I think I'd like to see those minutes go to Ranieri. And I'll say the other thing I've left out there is his passing is more than acceptable. The downside, I think, for him would be, look, the French league isn't the Premier League, and there's a mixed record of strikers coming from France. I think it's offset slightly by those European goals I mentioned this season. But I think the bigger issue I potentially have with this signing is that Lille play a little bit more on the counter-attack, particularly in Europe and domestically as well, to some extent, but less so given, they're one of the better French sides. So the tactical fit is slightly different, and it might take him a little bit of time to learn that. And the other issue might be that he's a bit similar to Kai Havertz in terms of his movement and playing style. But I think given his versatility, he could play out wide left, he can play in behind, he can play in the hole. I think means that you're in a position where him being the same as Kai Havertz in many ways is not necessarily a problem, because I think Arsenal do want a different style striker. But given that versatility, I think you can play him in multiple positions. And I think that really helps. And I think for Arsenal, it gives them potential to sell Jesus. There's rumoured interest in Brazil in the January transfer window and bring him in. I think I'd probably hold on to Jesus just until the end of the summer, just into the season, just because of the numbers in the squad, but also David won't be eligible to play in the Champions League and play for Lille. So it just gives you that bit of protection there. But I think this is a really good signing. Because, as I say, his versatility's there. And that means it doesn't preclude us from signing Gyökeres or Sesko or Isak or whoever our striker is in the summer. It gives us a replacement for Jesus in the side. And as I say, I think we're one short. And it comes at an affordable cost that I think we can afford in January, unless the PSR issue is so bad that it forces into those sales at the end. But I don't think they do. I think they were always planned sales. It just happened to come late in the window. So for me, how do Arsenal fix their attack? I think, it will come. I just think it will. I just don't think it's quite going Arsenal's way at the moment. So I think it will come naturally, sort of similar to what we saw last season in many ways. but I think it can also be massively improved by getting the addition of Jonathan David. And I think that's, if I'm Arsenal right now, I was going to say Edu, but he's gone. If I'm Arsenal right now, Jonathan David from Lille for 25-30 million in January makes a lot of sense. And then Arsenal look for that big name striker in the summer. Anyway, they're my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, comment on what you do in the comments, and I will try and pop on after the Champions League game. It's highly unlikely we'll do one before on the preview. I think we kind of know what to expect from that game and what we should be looking at doing. And I will catch you later in the week, guys. Cheers. Bye.